I'll show you how to make this easy 1/12 scale room box using cardboard that you can display on a shelf or on your wall. I'm making it in such a way that it has a forced perspective where it's only 3 inches deep, but it looks deeper because of the angle of the walls. To get started, I'm making a pattern piece using some graph paper. To find a center point, I'm folding it in half along one of the lines. Now I'll be making an 8-inch long line, which will be the back wall of my room box. To make sure my line is centered, I lined up the 4 with the fold I made in the paper and drew a line from the 8 to the 0. Then I turn my ruler sideways and mark 3 inches from the 8-inch line, which is the depth of the room box. To draw the 10-inch line, I centered the 5 on the fold and drew a line from the 10 to the 0. If you're like me and you don't like measuring things, don't worry because this is the hardest part of this entire project and it's already almost done. To finish the pattern, I used my ruler to connect the ends of the lines. Since they're different lengths, it creates angled sides, which creates the forced perspective. This pattern will make the floor and ceiling, and the sides are simple rectangles, so I'm not creating a pattern for that. With my pattern complete, I glued it to some cereal box so it won't be flimsy and it'll be easy to trace around it. You can try to draw your pattern directly onto cereal box without using the graph paper if you think you can pull that off, but I like having the straight lines to cut along. To trace this pattern piece, you can line it up with an edge if you know that it's absolutely straight, or you can lay it on your piece of cardboard and start by marking the corners. I like to trace the corners first, so I'll notice if the pattern shifts while I'm drawing the straight lines. I traced the pattern and cut out 2 of them, which will be the floor and the ceiling of the room box. Now I need the side walls to attach the ceiling and floor to. Starting with a straight edge in the cardboard, I used my ruler to mark multiple dots at 3 inches wide. Making multiple marks ensures your measurement is even from top to the bottom. I cut the walls longer than I need because I'll cut off the excess later. I cut out 2 pieces and recycled the scraps. To complete the forced perspective illusion, I made a dot 3/4 of an inch from the bottom of the wall and drew a line to the corner. I made sure these mirrored each other. Then I laid down some hot glue and used the line as a guide for attaching the floor. Hot glue can be an unreliable glue for certain materials, but it does really well holding cardboard together. I held the pieces together for a moment while the hot glue cooled, and then I used some more along the back to help reinforce the joint. I attached the floor to the other wall in the same way, and using the 1-inch grid on my mat to measure, I made a mark at 8 inches on both sides. Then I used my square and utility knife to cut off the excess. Once I trimmed each side wall, I attached the ceiling by repeating the steps I took when attaching the floor. I measured 3/4 of an inch on the side wall, attached the ceiling at an angle, and reinforced all the seams with more hot glue. To create a back wall for my room, I used a combination of wood glue and hot glue to attach it to a piece of cardboard. Hot glue could hold it perfectly well on its own, but my hot glue starts cooling really quickly, so I wouldn't have time to line the entire perimeter before it would start to harden. I still used a little hot glue so it would grab hold right away. Then I used my square to make sure the corners were 90 degrees before allowing the wood glue to dry. I'll be completely covering the walls and floor, but I don't want any interference from glue lumps, so I smoothed them out and pulled out any big chunks of hot glue. Then I weighed it down with a heavy book to allow the wood glue to dry for a bit before proceeding. Next, I used a combination of the room box and my speed square to cut a new square back that's the same size and shape of the front of the room box. I'll be gluing an outer frame to this piece, so I want to make sure it's square. This new piece will allow me to add straight sides to cover up the angled edges. To demonstrate this more clearly, I used a cereal box to make this adorable 1/44 scale version. This is the square piece I just added, and this enables me to add walls to the sides of this room box to create straight edges. On the 1/12 scale version, I cut a strip of cardboard to be the same height as the room box plus the 2 layers of cardboard underneath, and I used my pencil to mark and cut it the appropriate length. You'll know your sidewall isn't tall enough if it doesn't reach the top edge and cover the corrugation at the bottom. Once I covered up that side, I decided to cover up the other long side that's directly across from it. Then I finished it by adding pieces to the short ends. To give it the best finished look, I made sure the side walls were tall enough to cover the corrugation on the bottom and also any exposed corrugation on the cut ends. Once I completely framed out the outer edge, I went around with my hot glue gun and reinforced the joints along the top of the frame in particular. I've already started working on the finishing touches, so make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell notification button so you don't miss out. I'm decorating this shallow room box to look like a rustic kitchen, and I'll show you multiple techniques and make a lot of fun miniatures. For this room so far, I used cereal box to make some paneling on the walls. I made a fireplace, an egg carton stone hearth, a tin ceiling, and some wide plank rustic wood floors. I also cannot let this adorable thing go to waste, so I'll have to decorate this 1/44 scale room box for a dollhouse. Let me know if you have any ideas of what I can make inside of this. For now, I decided to cover up the seams on the outside of the room box using this medical tape I had in my medicine cabinet. You could also cover up the outside with paper or just use joint compound. I chose this tape because it's strong and flexible, and I already had it on hand, and it'll cover up the humble origins of my cardboard box room box. In a future video, I'll paint the outside and add a frame. Thank you for watching, and make sure you check out my other videos.